Well, how you going, everyone? Josh the Collector Guy. Hope you're having an awesome week so far out there, everyone. Hope you've been able to find some pretty awesome cars so far this week. Well, I got challenged by Mr. Michael Ramirez and the guys from Diecasttvchannel channel over in New Zealand to do Gabba Dabba 12's 5 Fun Facts Challenge. Well, here goes, and I've probably going to add a couple of other questions into the mix as well, so I'm going to be jabbering on for quite a while, I think. First up, we'll start off with my name is, well, it's Josh or Joshua. Second question, I live in the state of, well, I live in Australia. I live in Queensland, one of the states on the east coast of Australia. It does get pretty hot here sometimes, especially in summer, of course. It does get around 43, maybe 40, yeah, roughly around 40 degrees centigrade, I think it is, not Fahrenheit, because that's what we go by over here in Australia. It probably is a bit confusing to you American guys, and in winter it does get pretty cool as well, so I guess we get the best of both worlds as well. Question 3, my favourite team is, well, that's going to be a bit hard for me to say because I've listed so many different teams I go for here in Australia and America. I'll start off with the Australian ones first. In the NRL, I go for the pretty much the Queensland teams: Brisbane Broncos, North Queensland Cowboys, Gold Coast Titans, but I do go for the Melbourne Storm. Ever since I was younger, I've always went for the Storm, but always stick to the Queensland teams. That's who we go for in my family. And in the AFL, it's the same deal. Brisbane Lions and the Gold Coast Suns. I really do like the Gold Coast Suns. I really particularly like the player Gary Ablett Jr. He's a really good player. Now in the American sports, well, I like the NFL, NBA, the baseball, the hockey, NASCAR, NHRA, you name it. I do like all those sports. I do go for certain teams in those sports I just mentioned. We'll start off with the NFL. I like the Minnesota Vikings. They've always stood out, in my opinion. I remember I think the first game I remember watching, they were playing the New Orleans Saints. They unfortunately lost, but I think ever since then I took a liking to them. And the Green Bay Packers, I know Dad likes the Packers and I don't mind them as well. But there are probably other teams we do go for, but those two are pretty much the two we stick to. In the NBA, I love the almighty Phoenix Suns. Really big fan of them. Remember when I was a kid, Dad had a Phoenix Suns jersey. It had Charles Barkley on the back, and I think ever since then I've always remembered their name, remembered what they look like, and that's who I go for. In the baseball, I like the mighty San Francisco Giants. Good to see them in the World Series. Really like them. Really like Tim Lincecum. He seems to stand out, in my opinion, as a pitcher, but I don't think he's pitched for quite a while now. I'm not really sure. I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to the NFL, NBA, the baseball, and the NHL. And in the NHL, I do like the Chicago Blackhawks. Really do like them. They seem to stand out in my opinion as well. And, well, in motorsports, well, that's the sport I really love the most. Doesn't matter what it is, I absolutely love it. As long as there's a General Motors vehicle or Chevrolet in it, I usually love supporting it. Well, in the NASCAR, I like Stewart Haas Racing and Hendrick Motorsports. And in Stewart Haas, probably the driver I go for the most would be Tony Stewart. I remember when I first started watching the NASCAR, well, I use the deodorant Old Spice. I know that's a bit silly. I remember when he had the Old Spice sponsorship, I always remember seeing this car with Old Spice on it, and it was Tony Stewart, and ever since then I've gone for him. Any associates with Stewart Haas, and of course mighty Hendrick Motorsports, Jimmy Johnson, Casey Kane, Jeff Gordon, the mighty Dale Earnhardt Jr. Really love Dale Jr. and of course his father, Mr. Dale Sr. Absolutely love him to bits. Probably my all-time favourite NASCAR driver. NHRA, I like the Summit Racing Equipment team with Jason Lyon and Greg Anderson. Really love those two guys. They always have used the GM product, and they got the mighty Camaros now. Don Schumacher Racing, I do like Tony Schumacher in the US Army Top Fuel Dragster. Really like him. He seems like a really great racer. In the Monster Jam, Team Scream, especially like Avenger because of his mighty 57 Chevy. Really like him. And of course Team Gravedigger. Who can't say they don't like Team Gravedigger? Really love them as well. In the Formula 1, I like Ferrari, especially Fernando Alonso, even though he might be moving on next year. But we'll soon find out about that one. And also Daniel Ricciardo, I don't mind him as well, but I do go for the Ferraris, so I don't mind them. And in the V8 supercars here in Australia, I like Red Bull Racing, especially Mr. Craig Lowndes. He's a really good guy. I really love supporting him each and every time the V8s are on over here in Australia. Alright, question 4. Gee, that was a big question, everyone. My favourite casting is, well, a bit hard for me to choose this. My favourite casting, everyone. I probably would say maybe the Camaros, but I love cars like the Alive 55, Classic Nomad, the Monte Carlo stock. I love that to bits. The old Chevy trucks there, the Bywayman's Plow Super Scraper. Probably my all-time favourite Reva, the Jet and Vet. Very, very rare Reva. I was super excited to track that one down. As I said, the Bywayman, Custom Camaro, Heavy Chevy, you name it. I really love a lot of cars, but I probably would say the Camaros, even the C-Signers, the Fleet side, because the Fleet side sort of reminds me of my Ute, because I do drive a Holden Ute, and that sort of relates to, and the El Camino, in my personal opinion. I really have had a great passion for trucks as well. I remember ever since I was a kid, I wanted well, probably a little bit older, probably around 12, and that always wanted a Holden Ute, and what do you know, I drive one now these days. So really hard for me to choose, but I'd probably have to say maybe the Camaros, maybe the Heavy Chevy, but I love all different types of General Motors vehicles, like the Olds 442 as well, the little Chevy Monza. I think that's a Monza, yeah. Well, a bit hard for me to choose, but I probably would say Camaro. Question 5, first channel I subscribe to. Well, I don't think there's a person on here on YouTube who can't say Race Grooves. He's always inspired me to do my videos. I remember seeing his videos and thinking, gee, I'd like to do that, and what do you know, 3 years later I've racked up a whole heap of videos on here on YouTube thanks to Mr. Race Grooves, the big daddy of Hot Wheels, as I like to say. He's a really cool guy. He has done heaps for the hobby. He's one of those guys who has a great passion for the hobby, just like I guess everyone does on here as well, but he seems to go that little bit extra mile to help everyone out, tell them what's coming up and this and that. And funnily enough, he was the first channel I commented on, and he was the first person to comment on one of my videos, so I thought that was pretty cool of him to do that. I remember whenever there's someone much higher than you in the video world here on YouTube, it's always awesome to get a comment from you. It's always like a boost of confidence, and it's like when you meet a famous person, you go, oh my goodness, they've commented on my video. It's just a really good feeling. And other channels as well, Hot Wheels Headcase, really cool guy here in Australia. Diecasttvchannel, the Choice As guys over in New Zealand, they're really good as well. And then when I started to find my way in the Hot Wheels world, like, I remember first starting off and just buying pretty much muscle cars, then it went to Chevys and that. Then one day, I don't know how it was, I noticed all the old Hot Wheels, and I think those are really cool. I'd love to have some of those in my collection. Look at this now, I've got a whole heap of different cars in my collection. And guys like Crackerjack 70, Dragbus Dave, Dreadnought 320, really awesome vintage cars in there, got those guys' collections. WTFFOR, really cool, love his videos as well, love seeing his vintage collection. Then I started customizing the Hot Wheels as well, and guys like Hot Wheels Costa Rica, old Dave, he gave me the inspiration as well to customize my cars. Even Puchef Marabou, he'd have to be another one, and Picker Nation as well. They're really cool standouts as well, and Mr. Sensitivity as well. Don't mind watching his vids here and there, seeing what crazy customs he's come up with as well. So that's my 5 questions. Who I'd like to nominate, maybe Hot Wheels Costa Rica. I know he might have a few nominations so far, so I thought I'd nominate you, Dave, if you haven't already. Don't want to force it on anyone. If you don't want to do it, hey, that's up to you. I don't want to put any pressure on you. Who else can we do? Maybe Dragbus Dave, and maybe WTFFOR. Who knows, maybe we might see some cool vids from those guys in coming weeks and that. But now, my bonus questions. This is the 6th question. How I started collecting and what I like collecting. Well, how I started collecting? Well, it has to be my dad. I remember when I was very young, probably pretty much when I could talk and notice what things are, like cars and trucks, I pretty much wanted them, and even trains as well. I remember collecting Thomas the Tank Engine stuff when I was a kid, because I absolutely love trains as well. Have a whole collection of those. I remember going to the shops and I always say to Dad, I want truck, I want truck. Yeah, and he'd always buy me one, of course, which was very good of him. Got a whole heap of them under my bed just there. And I remember as well, Dad always went to the flea markets on a Sunday and always wanted to go with him as well, and pretty much since then I've had the bug ever since. I know that I've probably had a few years break here and there, especially when I was going to school and that, but don't go to school anymore. I haven't been at school for years now, which is kind of a good thing. And I remember going to flea markets, picking up micro machines, Hot Wheels here and there, maybe some Star Wars stuff as well, just lots of things for our collections, and even going to the shops as well. I remember this toy world at the shopping centre near me. Always remember going there quite often, buying Thomas the Tank Engine stuff, Hot Wheels, and all sorts of different, even Star Wars stuff. I especially remember that. Even Transformers as well. That's another one of my things I like collecting, and that sort of leads us on to what I like collecting. I love collecting die-cast cars, Hot Wheels, Matchboxes, you name it, Tamikas. There's just so many what I love collecting. Star Wars, I love all the vintage stuff, vintage toys, like the vintage Hot Wheels, Matchboxes and Tamikas and all that sort of stuff. The vintage Star Wars figures. I don't mind finding some old Transformers here and there, but I'm not really stuck into that like I am with the Hot Wheels and the Star Wars. Trading cards, I love collecting the NASCAR stuff and that. I love collecting auto memorabilia like badges off Chevys and that. I know I've got a couple in one of my bags here in my room. I love collecting all that sort of stuff. Even car magazines as well. There's just so much I love collecting, and if I could, probably stuff to do with trains as well, but I really got no room for that. Probably like when I was a kid, all my HO scale train sets and that, I love playing with that as well. That's just some of the good stuff I like collecting. And maybe to top it all off, what are my other passions as well? Well, I like music, I like rock and roll, metal, anything to do with the 80s really, like Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, Metallica, Megadeth, Saxon, you name it. I really like a lot of those old rock metal bands from back then, and even just 80s music in general. That's what I really love. Of course, passionate about my family, love my family to bits as well. My ute, really love my ute. I'm probably out there every afternoon cleaning her off from the day's muck and grime and that. I love going to swap meets, flea markets, you name it, anything like that where I can find these awesome guys here. And another one of my true passions is motorsport. Absolutely love motorsport. Anything to do with, well, I love drag racing particularly. That's probably my most favourite motorsport, and NASCAR, Monster Jam. Heck, I even love tractor pulling. I love that sport to bits as well. Well, anything with Chevy in it pretty much I absolutely love. Well, that's about it from me, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed my 5 questions. Thank you very much to Diecast TV channel and Mr. Michael Ramirez for giving me the opportunity to do my 5 fun facts plus bonus questions as well. I hope you got to know me a little bit better than you probably already do, everyone. And big shout out to Mr. Gabberdevil12. Thank you for the awesome challenge you have created, my friend. Very, very good idea. I was glad to take part in it. Well, that's about it, everyone, for this video. Hope you enjoyed my vintage General Motors vehicles. Glad I could finally share them with you in this vid. But until next vid, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and remember, as always, everyone, happy hunting. Keep the hobby strong. See you later, everyone. Have an awesome week. Enjoy the rest of it.